he would suss them out, and then he would send his knights and his heavy cavalry forward. They would line up, and then when they'd given the word, they would charge. They would fire down the hill or across the field into the peasant army. They would smash the lines, cut them into smaller chunks. As they did this, the infantry would follow in and butcher the isolated groups of men. Efficient. Very, very efficient. Wallace knew this. And of course, with our proud Scottish noblemen running like fuck to go back to their wives, Edward then duly obliged. He sent out his heavy cavalry and his knights, and they lined up in front of the English army, hundreds of them. Every one of them more than half a ton of armed and armoured fury. They wanted revenge for Stirling. But we stood and we waited. Now Wallace, he placed a forest at the back of the Scots army and on either flank. So he knew if the horses were going to come, they were going to have to come right down their throats. They had no room to manoeuvre. And we waited. And we waited. And then Edward gave the signal. And the heavy cavalry began to walk towards us. Then trot. And up to a canter. We stood as hundreds of heavy cavalry and knights began to get closer and closer from the canter to the gallop. And we stood and we watched as they got faster and faster and closer and closer. And then the charge. The knights couched their lances. They were ready to smash the fuck out of us. And we stood. We did not move. And 5 horse lengths away from us, the shout went up and the Scots lines turned into a children, a hedgehog of pikes, spikes, long spears and stakes. And of course, the English heavy cavalry and knights, they had no room to manoeuvre and they had no time to stop. They charged in their own momentum, flew them into a wall of fucking points, spears crashing against them. It was a tidal wave of English chivalry and it came up against a rock of the Scotch Commons and it didn't just break, it was fucking smashed. Oh, it was carnage. I had a neighbour of mine who was one of a 3-man squad on an 18-foot long spear, and what they were doing was playing a game with the other squads to see who could do it best. And what they were doing was they were aiming for the breastbone of the horse. If they could get it there, it would go through and up through the shoulder blades. It would then go up through the saddle. It would castrate the knight, and the point would exit out of his fucking arsehole. The English cavalry were skewered like suckling pigs for the roast. I would like to think at this point King Edward had his first ever squeaky bum moment. For you see, never in the history of conflict in Europe had irregular peasant infantry turned aside a charge of heavy cavalry, and we didn't just turn them aside, we smashed those bastards to smithereens. At this point, we knew this was our battle. This was ours for the taking. Wallace gave the call. The English cavalry straggled back up to the lines, crushed and broken. Wallace gave the word and we dispatched the men and the horses that were in front of us and we began to walk the field. Because this was going to be our battle now. This was going to be infantry against infantry. And we might be outnumbered 2 or 3 to 1, but fuck him and the rest of his men. Because if he sends infantry into us, we will send them back in bits. We started crying our battle cries. Albaga break! Claymore! Come into me, you cunts! We got halfway up the field and the infantry didn't come. This was supposed to be a man-on-man fight now, but where's the infantry? The infantry didn't come. We're screaming and shouting, and they didn't come. For you see, Edward Longshanks was a winner. Edward Longshanks won because Edward Longshanks always had a plan B. And as we stood in the middle of the field, shouting for the infantry to come and face us, he simply loosed his Welsh longbow and his French crossbow, and they cut down those brave souls with black clouds of death. Volley after volley after volley after volley of arrows and bolts slammed into the Scots army, and afore long, Scots dead scattered across every inch of that battlefield. We had to drag Wallace back into the forest. He was screaming that he wanted to have a square go with Edward. I never found Magnus's body. Some say an hour ago to him. I can't be sure. I never buried him, you see. His mother wouldn't believe he was dead. Ken what we're like, eh? She spent the rest of her days sitting next to the door, watching, waiting and hoping. She was blind sure that boy was going to come walking up that road any day now. Large as life and twice as ugly. By Christ, the hammering she'd have given him if he did. Now Wallace is dead too. Taken by Scots treachery. Scots treachery. After 6 years of fighting a hit and run battle and war out of the Ettrick Forest, he dressed his men in green. They would ambush wagon trains coming down from Edinburgh, going to the Exchequer in London with money, goods and chattels plundered for the people in Scotland. Wallace would attack, he would kill the sheriffs, he would rob the wagon trains, and he would hand over the money and all the goods back to the people it was plundered for. And how is he rewarded for this service? The Scottish nobility fucking sold him to Northumberland. He was carted after London. He was dragged through the streets, mocked as a traitor, a blackguard and a scoundrel, and then he was hung, drawn and quartered by men that weren't fit to lick his fucking boots. Hard times. Hard times indeed. I hear tell that young Robert Bruce has got a hankering to fill Wallace's boots. Ha! I'd be thinking his fucking feet are going to have to grow a wee bit before he can do that. For you see, I have scant faith in a man that's been brought up at Edward's English court and can speak English better than the fucking Frenchified Duke of York. I hear tell he's going to crown himself King of Scots. King of Scots! Listen to this. Robert the Bruce, King o' Scots. See, it doesn't even have a right ring to it, does it? Do you think I'm going to see it? Do you think my bones are going to last me another winter? Right. Let's see if your skin is ready yet. Oh, aye. It's got that feel now. The sliminess is about half it. Let's see what it smells like. Well, it smells less like dead stoat, so that's good. Aye, that tastes like famous grouse whiskey now. It's a lovely bit of skin, this, isn't it? Look at that. What's this going to make, eh? It'll make maybe a purse for a merchant's gold, eh? Maybe a pair of gloves for a fine lady. Maybe a scabbard for a dagger. Maybe a sword hasp. It's a story of hint in this skin. I suppose I better tell you. The wife would never forgive me if I hadn't. I've had this skin a while. 8 year. 8 year to the very day, in fact. The 11th of September, 1297. The Battle of Stirling Brig. The day my boy became a man. Now, our Magnus, he'd fought his way right up the causeway. Right up to the tyrant tax collector himself. Now, don't get me wrong here. Our Magnus did not have the honour of killing that fat English bastard, but he was close enough. He was close enough to see Hugo de Cressingham's eyes as a Scottish sword parted him for his immortal soul. Our Magnus, he'd never seen a man being brought face to face with his immortality before, and he said afterwards, poor Hugo, he looked as if he couldn't believe it was happening to him. Anyway, after the battle was done, William Wallace had the dead body of Hugo de Cressingham dragged back down the causeway, and they hung him up on a frame on the opposite bank for Lord Surrey and his thousands, so they could watch. We then stripped him of his armour and his clothing, and we left that man hanging there as naked as the day he came into this world. Then we took this knife and we skinned him inch by inch by inch. Well, with his father being a tanner and all that, it was obvious that Magnus should get the skin. I think our Hugo is just about done now, don't you?